They say silence can speak volumes, but what if that silence isn't calm at all? What if it's the sound of someone fighting their desire for you, trying to hide an obsession they can't control? Stay with me as I reveal the 5 subtle signs that a woman is secretly addicted to you, but trying to hide it. By the end of this video, you'll understand how the quietest moments often hold the loudest truths. Stoic psychology reveals what most people overlook, that behind her steady tone and composed face might live a craving she'll never put into words. Sometimes what she doesn't say is the clearest confession of all. So, trust me, you'll want to stick around for this. Alright, let's get into it. It began with a man named Alex, steady, composed, and untouched by the need for validation. He wasn't loud or boastful. His power came from stillness. He lived by the ancient teachings of the Stoics. Control what you can, release what you can't, and remain calm when the world trembles. But lately something was off. There was a woman in his orbit. Her presence had changed. She was distant, yet drawn to him. Cold one moment and oddly attentive the next. It wasn't the kind of attention you could explain. It was sharper, more focused, almost magnetic. The first sign came quietly. She remembered everything. The exact way he took his coffee. The quote he mentioned only once from Marcus Aurelius. Even the small scar on his wrist. A story he'd never shared. Most people forget details like that. But she didn't. Psychology calls this fixation. When someone is emotionally hooked, their brain starts collecting details like souvenirs. It's not love, it's obsession disguised as care. Alex noticed, but he didn't jump to conclusions. Stoicism had taught him better than that. Instead, he watched. Silently, calmly, patiently. Because sometimes the truth doesn't shout. It reveals itself in the quiet moments, through the patterns we pretend not to see. And deep down he knew, something was unfolding beneath the surface. Something she couldn't hide forever. If you're finding value, hit like and subscribe so other men can discover this epic Stoic truth. Let's continue. The second sign didn't arrive with drama. It came hidden in contradiction. She'd laugh and call him too calm, mocking his unshakable nature, yet moments later she'd create little emotional storms just to see if she could make him flinch. One day it was a sharp comment, the next, a subtle withdrawal of warmth. Every test was the same question in disguise: will you lose yourself for me? When a person hides attachment, they provoke it through chaos. It's not that they want conflict, they want proof. If he reacted, if he argued, raised his voice, or chased after her, she'd feel desired. But Alex never took the bait. His silence wasn't indifference, it was mastery. He refused to give power to her emotional games, and that calm unsettled her more than anger ever could. He stayed centered, listening, observing, unbothered. And that stillness became her undoing. Every attempt to shake him only pulled her in deeper. His peace became magnetic, his restraint intoxicating. She didn't know whether she wanted to test him again or surrender to the quiet safety he carried. Because the truth is, the moment a man remains unshaken, the woman testing him begins to realize, she's not in control anymore, rather he is. The fourth sign didn't appear in her words, it lived in her timing. She would vanish for days, leaving only silence behind, and just when Alex began to feel his mind detach, she'd reappear as if summoned by his fading thoughts. A message, a call, a sudden visit, just enough to remind him she still existed. At first it seemed like coincidence, but patterns don't lie. Every disappearance made him crave her presence a little more, and every return felt like a reward. What she was doing wasn't love, it was intermittent reinforcement, the same psychological loop that drives addiction. Give, withdraw, return, repeat. Each time she pulled away, she created distance. Each time she came back, she reattached control. It wasn't deliberate cruelty, it was unconscious power. Her mind was feeding on the emotional tension between presence and absence. The push and pull made her feel wanted, and it made him question himself. Alex, guided by Stoicism, began to recognize the pattern. Love builds peace. Addiction builds anxiety. And this was no peace. It was emotional roulette, one that trained his heart to wait for her next move. Because the most dangerous kind of addiction isn't to a substance. It's to a person who leaves just enough of themselves to keep you wanting more. The fifth sign arrived quietly, but its silence carried weight. Across the room she wouldn't speak, yet her eyes told stories her mouth refused to form. A fleeting glance that lingered too long. A pause in her breathing when he entered. The stillness between them wasn't empty, it was charged. Every look, every subtle movement carried tension, unspoken and undeniable. It was the kind of silence that hums beneath the skin, the one that doesn't need words to be heard. She didn't know why she felt drawn to him this way, why she could feel his presence even without touch. Her body betrayed her before her mind could hide it. That magnetic pull, that stillness filled with heat, was her confession without sound. Stoicism teaches that a man cannot control how others feel, only how he responds. And Alex understood this deeply. He didn't chase her glances, didn't feed the silent tension. He let it exist, let it breathe, and that restraint only fueled her more. The less he reacted, the more she felt it. His peace became a mirror to her turmoil, his control an anchor she couldn't resist. The silence she created to protect herself turned into the space where her desire grew. Because sometimes what she doesn't say out loud is exactly what she's screaming inside. In truth, her fixation wasn't on Alex, it was on what he embodied. He was a mirror of everything she lacked but longed for: peace, certainty, control. In a world spinning with chaos, his calm became her gravity. He didn't need to chase validation or prove his worth. His silence spoke louder than most people's noise. And that silence drew her in like a moth to flame. The more he remained grounded, the more she lost her balance. His stillness wasn't just emotional, it was spiritual, a kind of peace that made her restless. She couldn't explain it, but his composure made her feel both safe and exposed. The steadier he stood, the more her mind began to orbit his energy. It wasn't love, it was psychological dependency disguised as attraction. This is the paradox of Stoic psychology: the less you try to be wanted, the more you are desired. True detachment isn't about pushing people away, it's about being unshaken by their pull. And that kind of power is magnetic. It unsettles the ones who thrive on emotional reaction because it forces them to confront their own lack of control. Alex never tried to impress her. He simply was. His peace became her addiction. His restraint, her curiosity. His lack of need, her craving. She couldn't define it, yet she couldn't let it go. Because the truth is, people don't always fall for others. They fall for the feeling those people create within them. She wasn't addicted to Alex. She was addicted to the calm he carried effortlessly, the quiet power that made her chaos feel small. So if you ever notice someone drifting closer while pretending not to care, pay attention. The signs aren't found in what they say, but in what they repeat, the patterns they can't hide. The attention, the contradiction, the testing, the timing, the silence. Those are the 5 unspoken languages of hidden attachment. Proof that obsession often hides behind composure, and the loudest desire is the one spoken in quiet restraint. If this message struck something in you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more Stoic insights from Become Stoic. Click on the next video showing up on your screen right now to become the man who attracts women and not the one that chases them.